Hello. Let's What is going on for those of you who have just watched House of the Dragon season 2 episode 5? Man, oh man, oh man. Oh man. What a great show. And if you are not watching this show, I have to tell you, you are truly missing out because you are we are witnessing another revival, another show that is written so well, that is done so good that it blows everything else out of the water right now. If you think you're watching a show right now that is really good, if you think you're watching a show that's just got some great dialogue and some mystery or whatever, I'm here to tell you this show smokes all of them. It's been doing it since last season. It is it is doing it again this season. This show is fantastic. And hopefully we'll get a few people in the chat just to come in and talk about it. If you haven't watched it, I fully understand. The last thing I want to do is ruin your Sunday night. But I love going live. I love talking to people, no matter how many it is. It could be 3, it could be 7, it could be 25. I don't really care. I love going live. I love talking off the cuff. It's what I do for a living. It's what I want to do right here. This episode was absolutely fantastic. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't know that show. It's a slow burn. I love that term. It's a slow burn. Well, a slow burn can mean many things. Um, but a slow burn is not a bad thing. For some people, if they watch a show and it's very dialogue heavy and it's very referential to lore, like something like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, even Star Wars for a lot of people, it's it's hard to get into if you get in on the back end of it. And I fully understand that. Look, I have not read the books for House of the Dragon. I have not read the books for Lord of the Rings. But I've enjoyed the movies, and for Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, or some people call it Game of Dragons or House of Thrones, which is a fun way to put it. Um, I fully understand it, right? Like, the jokes aside, I fully understand it because you do need to have some kind of background. And before I really get into this, before I kind of dig in and throw some pictures up and stuff like that, there are a few people in the chat. I see we've got about 6 eyeballs on us. Um, if uh, if you're lurking there and you're just watching this stream, I appreciate it. If you are in the chat, I really appreciate it. I want to say hello to one of my friends from down under, Ronnie Trickshot. Bring that up really quick. He says, "Happy Monday, brother. Told you the sun will come up tomorrow." And yes, it did. We had a wonderful, and I mean a wonderful conversation last night. If you get a chance, go back, watch the live stream that I did last night for about an hour and a half or so with Ronnie Trickshot, uh, friend from Australia. And what I wanted to ask him was, what do people from somewhere else, other than the United States, what do they feel about the United States? What did they feel about what happened yesterday, which we all know. I don't have to go over it and talk about it. But I want to have those conversations. I enjoy having those conversations. I think it's important to find different points of view. Those are important things to have. And so Ronnie came on, thankfully accepted my invite, came on and had a great conversation. So I implore you to go back, watch that video. Eric Thurman says that he actually watched it, and he had some comments. Man, I responded to those comments, Eric, and I appreciate you commenting on the video. And it's all about dialogue and discussion. Now, we can all have our different opinions about who should win this presidential race coming up, who should be involved, who should be allowed to run, whatever that means. But the bottom line is what happened yesterday is a disgrace in this country. It's something that has not happened very often if you go back and look throughout history for this country. But this is also a very young country compared to places like the UK, like Australia, in Europe, obviously, in Italy and the Middle East, and people that have dealt with things for thousands of years. But I implore you to go back, watch that video. I think it's a great conversation, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for me to have. And so, real quick though, I wanted to say hey to my cousin. 3 Star Draw is here. He said, "I'm here to say hi and hit the like before I go watch it." And as a great reminder, hit the like button if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, I fully understand, and we'll go from there. But if you do like what you hear, you like my channel, you like what I do, hit the like button. It helps with engagement. It helps spread the message, spread the channel. And honestly, people say, "Man, why do you go live all the time? Like you're live almost every damn day." Well, I like to talk. I like to talk. I like to talk to people. I like to talk to y'all. I like to talk to a damn microphone and a screen and a camera. It's almost in a way, it's therapeutic for me in some ways because I get to talk about stuff that I do talk about at work, but maybe some things that I don't want to talk about at work because I am a respectful person and I don't want to bring things up with every single person that comes in. I'm not one of those people that's going to force my ideas on you. If you came to hang out and have a good time, have a beer, get some brisket or some pork, and just come hang out and watch a soccer match or the football match, as they say, in other parts of the world, um, then great. I don't want to impede on you having a good time. So I'm not going to force my beliefs or force my stuff on you. However, with this channel, one of the things I like to talk about is people forcing those beliefs on us. But with this show, House of the Dragon, season 2, we're at episode 5. You want to talk about a show that has been able to uh, get around those obstacles, get around those things that like we look at in television now, that in streaming, in movies. You want to talk about a show that still has some of that. Okay, I'm not going to lie. There are things within this episode. They bring up about how men are responsible for war. Men are always at the head of the table. Men are the ones who make stupid decisions. And it's time for women to be able to speak up. I do firmly believe, yes, those ideals do fall into the category of, oh gosh, men are always the ones who want to start wars and stuff like that. But I think we would all agree that men are not always at the head of the table. Many queens, many dignitaries, many people throughout history, and many of them women, have done some very heinous things. So, yes, within this show, yes, there's one thing that kind of bothered me. We may kind of go over it. I do want to say real quick that Tuesday night with Matthew Matson at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, we will be having our live stream and we will be talking about this particular episode. So for those that are interested, I want you to come back for that. We're going to go scene to scene. Now, I don't want to keep Matthew up past his Betty by time, but at the same token, I don't want to drag this episode out for him so that it's pushes him way past the time he wants to stream, but I also want to talk about it and do a deep dive. And it's fun to do a deep dive with Matthew because he is so knowledgeable and he is very good and great at explaining his point of view. So yes, we're going to do a deep dive on Tuesday night. If you want to tune in for that, I'd love to have you. I'll try to cover a couple other stories in the pop culture world, but this is going to be the main one. And for those of you who are tuning in and don't want to be spoiled, that don't want to have anything told to you that you haven't watched yet, now is probably the time that you should tune out. Doesn't mean I don't want you here. I'd love to have you here, but there are going to be some things that I'm going to bring up. Not going to do a deep dive. And I did this last week. I wanted to talk about how good the episode was, how much fun it was. However, there are things I'm going to bring up. So if that doesn't suit you and you really want to go back and watch this and soak it in and not be spoiled in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Because really, there's not a lot of spoilers in this episode, to be quite frank with you. Everything in this episode comes out of the books for the most part. Some of it is made up. But overall, this episode is a nice mid-season episode to get us caught up and to get us along our way with people dealing with loss and loss of family members and on both sides, so to speak, and getting us prepared for the last 3 episodes. And I thought this was a great middle season episode. You may hear that a lot on some of the streams you might watch here coming up soon. And so right now, just to let you know, I am texting one more person that I really, really like and hopefully they may jump in or take a listen or a watch real quick. So as I do that, I just want to say hi again to the chat. Like I said, Ronnie Trickshot, 3-star draw, Eric Thurman is here, and we may add a few more as it goes on. If not, that's great. I'm perfectly happy talking to whomever shows up to my streams and is interested in anything that I have to say. So, real quick, I'm sending this message and let's see here. So hopefully everybody had a great Sunday. Everybody had a great day today. It was really hot where I'm at. Hopefully it wasn't as hot where you're at, but it's very hot here in Nashville, Tennessee. But hey, another day has passed. That's another day closer to college football. That's another day closer to the autumn and the fall, and so we'll just chalk it up and go from there. All right. Really quickly, a couple other comments in here. Let's see. Ronnie Trickshot says, I like what I hear and what I see. You're a very handsome man. Well, thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate that. And you, likewise, are also a very handsome man. And thank you so much for hanging out with me last night. Hopefully, I can entertain you while you're at work. And if you get in trouble, blame it on me. I will take the heat for you, Ronnie, on the other side of the planet. All right? Just blame it on me. Also, Loki Wartooth is here too. He says, What up, IP? I know you mean what up, Pop. It's all good. Loki's got a new channel. You guys need to check it out. It is real quick. I want to look that up so I can properly introduce Loki's channel. And if he corrects me in the chat, I will correct that. But to my knowledge, is it the Model Misfit channel, Loki? Type it in the chat. Let everybody know where you're at because I want them to see your stuff because you do great custom work, 3D printing. He's amazing. And so I wanted to say hey to Loki there. All right. So for those of you who did not get a chance to watch this episode, and if you are interested and you do want to watch it, you're in for a treat. And the reason why I think you're in for a treat, because this episode in particular, other than like battles or, great cinematography or whatever, and there are some great shots of land and sea, so to speak. This episode really sets us up for moving forward. At the very beginning, and just so you know, I don't want to get just crushed by HBO/Warner. So I will be dipping in and out as I search through this episode to find certain scenes that are worth maybe talking about. I do not want to play much in that way as well because, man, they are really, 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 really hardcore HBO. So 3-star Dog says, all right, I'll catch the replay, going to watch it now. Sounds great, man. And by all means, you want to jump in, especially Tuesday with me and Matthew, and you want to kind of go over, rehash this episode. We're going to do that super deep dive on that Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central. But this episode begins with Lord Corliss obviously suffering because his wife, Rhaenys, passed away in the last episode. Her dragon, Meleys, was destroyed. They fell on the castle walls at Rook's Rest. And so we here have Lord Corliss, her husband, who is grieving her loss. And I think it's a great scene to show because we didn't get much of Lord Corliss in the last episode or two, really, hardly at all, really, this season. Not much. But I love these poignant scenes with him because we need to see his loss. We also need to see some of the decisions that he has to make. And later on, he has a very crucial scene with his daughter as well. But nonetheless, so we have Lord Corliss, and so he is, sitting down and really just trying to think about everything that happened. We cut to Rhaenyra, who is looking out over the horizon, right over the ocean. A beautiful shot again. They did a lot of on location filming for this show. And I love that because so often now, especially when you watch like your Disney shows and other stuff, they use this thing called the volume. And the volume is a complete 360-degree sound stage, but video. And they can actually record the backgrounds as if it was on location. I suggest you look it up if you don't know about it. But anyway, it's really cool, and it allows the actors to even feel like they're more into the scene or the location than they are just on a soundstage. So we have Rhaenyra, who is also mourning the loss of Rhaenys and her dragon, and so then we cut to uh, the small folk, and then we get the at the red, the Red Keeper at King's Landing, rather. I'm sorry, at King's Landing, they are parading Meleys the dragon through the streets, but they also have a not a casket, but they do have a wagon with someone on the back of it on wheels. So they're parading the head of Rhaenys dragon, Meleys, and you see here, they're screaming out, or they're saying out, the soldiers are saying, the traitor dragon Meleys, and and they're just saying, the dragon fell at Rook's Rest. Well, the small folk are not really thrilled with this. Now, some people shout out, to Aegon, obviously the sitting king. People say, oh, to Aegon. But most people, most small folks see it as an omen, a bad omen. And it's really like they know what's to come. They've read the books or they've read the history. They know what is to come. And what is to come is when dragons are battling each other, people are going to suffer. And as we saw in last episode, soldiers being burned, turned to ash. And you see Sir Kristen Cole here, who has a look of indignation on his face. He is not happy nor sad. He is probably in a daze, so to speak, at this point, because he can't believe what he just saw. He's never seen that before. Obviously, most people that are battling right now, whether they're 15 or 25 or 35 or 65, have probably not seen dragons in action. They've only heard about them, seen them taking flight from, you know, um, King's Landing, but they've never really seen them in action in war. And so the look on Kristen Cole's face tells you everything you need to know because he knows what happened last episode. He knows that Aemon purposefully set the king and Rhaenys on fire. And so the question is, did Aemon do that to usurp the throne and take the throne? I want to say hi to Same Time Toys here too. Shane, what's going on, man? How you doing? Real quick, thanks for jumping in and hanging out, man. And if you don't want to be spoiled by some of this, I don't want to spoil you on this show. I think it's a wonderful show. And if you're not quite caught up, I don't want to spoil you on it. However, if you're fine with hanging in and listening, then awesome. Don't want to tell you to go away. That's for sure. But anyway, so Kristen Cole obviously is really just kind of dumbstruck right now. But then you see the dragon head being paraded about the town. Young children, it can't be, they killed a dragon. But you'll see the adults actually are not really thrilled with what has just happened because they understand the ramifications of that. And also, the small folk at least knew who Rhaenys was. This has only been a few weeks, mind you, since King Viserys died of his illness. So we're talking about just a matter of weeks that have gone by. So this isn't like years or months or whatever. This is a short period of time. And the show has done a really good job, I think, of conveying the slow change in time. I know sometimes there has to be dialogue that denotes that, but overall, I think that the show has done a good job of telling us not a lot of time has passed, and sometimes you have to kind of pay attention to that stuff. And that's what I love about a great show, is that they rely on you, the viewer, to notice things, notice people, where they're going, where they're coming from, people in the background, maybe the armor, or maybe something someone is holding, the brothels, so to speak, ancillary characters. They rely on you to be smart enough to figure these things out. And that's what makes this show even better than a lot of shows that it just have so much unnecessary dialogue, and they have to explain everything about a character, right? So much exposition that we don't need, but they treat the audience as if they're children. This show doesn't do that. They treat you as if you are an adult, you can handle it, and you can figure things out for yourself, and I appreciate that. So, they're parading Melees through the streets of King's Landing, but a lot of people are not really happy about this. Now, at this point, you would think the small folk, so to speak, are on the side of the crown. They're like, hey, look, the king's son, the heir to the throne, little child was murdered in his bed. Uh, and they caught the people who did it. They also took a bunch of innocent people and strung them up, and also hung them, whether they were part of it or not. And so the crown has made a couple of bad moves, okay? But in this instance, parading a dragon head through the streets may seem like a great idea, but in actuality, the small folk, the citizens, they don't look at it like that. This is a bad omen, and they know what's to come. And we will see later in the episode what's really to come for them, which is really a horrible situation for anyone. And I can equate it to somewhat being in this country in 2020. And so as they parade the dragon through, you see people, they're disgusted, even. You see the look on their faces. They are disgusted at what they're seeing. Some people clutching their chest. And just great acting, from from a lot of people who are extras and stuff like that. You see some great shots of extras. And I appreciate that because you see this person here kind of hand up to their mouth. And while you think about these things and you go, oh, okay, it's an actress or it's an extra and they're just doing this, but when you frame it the way you want to frame it, it comes across as very powerful. And this is a powerful moment because the people do not agree with this. They've seen Melees, the dragon. They know who Rhaenys is. They know who her husband is, the sea snake. They know these are famous people. Now, have they seen them every day? No. Do they have contact with them? No. But again, you're talking about people who have just been removed from this city weeks prior. So this is a big deal. And Shane from Same Time Toys says spoilers never stop me from watching a good show. I agree with you 100%. It does not bother me to watch videos and watch some of the people I love to listen to talk about shows and tell me and spoil it. I don't care. I'll still watch it for myself because it's that good of a show. Now, if it's a shit show, I don't give a shit. It's like, I don't care. Spoil away. Spoil away. You know, Star Wars right now, spoil away. Don't care. Um, and God bless me, I've been trying to work on this Star Wars video for days now. And I've almost kind of feel like throwing my hands up and just telling you guys, man, don't even watch it. It's garbage. But I want to explain it to you. So I'll get on that. In the meantime, so we have the small folk, and then you have Sir Gawain, Alicent's brother, the Queen Dowager, used to be Queen. This is her brother Sir Gawain. Now, this is Kristen Cole on screen, but Alicent's brother says, don't they realize we won the battle? Or actually, this is Kristen Cole saying, don't they realize we won the battle? However, Sir Gawain understands the fact that no, this was not a win. This was not like, oh wow, we just dominated, whatever. He knows that the small folks see this as an omen, and it's not good. And that's Sir Gawain on the left there. Um, he understands what this means. And so, and we will come to know that also on the camp of House Black, uh, Rhaenyra's camp, they understand this too, to an extent. Now she needs to be told that, but they understand that this is not going to sit well with the common people. So they parade the dragon through the streets, and then we kind of cut to. If I can get to it. There's a good shot. All right, I'm gonna pull this off screen for just a moment because I want to scrub this video and make sure I don't get hit by HBO, so to speak. But we have a really good shot actually of Alicent, the queen, standing above as the wagon goes through the walkway. We have a good shot looking down, and this is her son. There we go. Okay. I want to make sure my internet wasn't messing up tonight. I'm gonna get really upset if that happens. All right. So this is the king covered up. And if you understood the last episode, the king got severely burned while in battle. There's Alicent looking down. We have obviously Aemon as well looking down and surveying the situation. He's seeing everybody be paraded through the streets. And then this is actually the king being brought up into the Red Keep. And as we will see, he is in serious condition. He can't speak. He has been burned. Now, he's not completely burned head to toe. He is burned, especially on one side of his body. But we do see that he actually still has somewhat his hair, or and his face is recognizable, but half of it has been burned, and they have to cut his Valerian steel armor off of his body. That's a big deal because Valerian steel is the toughest, strongest armor, weapons in Westeros. So, they bring the casket up. We see them unloading the casket. It's a very long, drawn out scene. We see the king's wife here as she's looking on, and then they take Aegon out of the casket, and they allow Alicent to walk up and take a look at her son. And it is a powerful moment because this is her son. Her son has been, um, let's see here, get it full screen. Her son has been burned, you know, quite extensively over most of his body. And you can see his head there, so to speak. the maesters get to work on him, or the maester, the grand maester, and then everyone else gets to work on him initially, and they're trying to soothe his pain. They're trying to get the armor off because it is burned onto his skin. So as they're pulling it off, you can imagine, you know, they are um pulling that armor off. And War Chest says, "Damn, Pop, you look tired. Sleep, sleep. You're getting very sleepy." A little bit, but I'll survive, War Chest, as you know. You had to call me back 2 or 3 times last night, but every time I answered and answered the bell, my friend. And so here I am to answer the bell one more time. Allison looks over her son, and she realizes that something's not quite right. She knows that she feels it, that Amon had a part to play in this. And she asks a couple times about what maybe people saw, what Amon's involvement in this was. Obviously, no one's going to spill those beans, including Sir Kristen Cole. And so, as a mother, she is at this point concerned about her son. She is worried about her son and his condition. The king, so to speak, is not in a good state, and he has not awoken. And the Grand Maester says that during the episode. And here's a brutal scene, so to speak, where they're peeling the armor off there. And so at this point right now, the king comes back. He is still alive. Now, I was actually a bit shocked. I have not read the books, so I am not fully well versed on whether the king survived this conflict that he had in the last episode. But if this is how they're going to play it, then this is how they're going to play it. And I am not going to be, I'm not going to fight against it because I enjoy the show. Also, Ronnie Trickshot says, I'm all for Game of Thrones spoilers because if you're going to wait for Georgie Boy to finish writing the books, you're going to be waiting a long time. You're going to be waiting for the rest of your life because he is not going to finish those books, Ronnie. It's just not going to happen. That's all there's to it. So we had, unfortunately, have to have other people fill in the books for us. Now, this book was actually written already. This is the unreliable narrator story. So, per the show, okay, we're getting points of view from all sides. However, in the books, it's from 4 different sides, if I remember correctly, per Matthew Matson. And every one of those people are telling the story from their own personal biased view. So nonetheless, we get to they are peeling off the the armor from Aegon, and the Grand Maester says, "Look, Your Grace," he's talking to Alicent, the Queen Dowager. "Look, we got to get to work. You got to get out of here. We need to get to work." So they basically tell her you should step away. And in the meantime, we get a visit from Aemon, who comes to look over his brother. And it's interesting because you can see on his face, you can watch the actor, and it's great acting, but you can see he is shocked that his brother is still alive. He also knows that if his brother is able to speak, he is the king. So whatever he says is the law of the land. And he knows if his brother survives, his goose is cooked. Because Aegon, if we have to guess, is going to tell on his brother Aemon that Aemon fired upon him with his dragon. Dracarys, Vagar shot fire, and he burned both Rhaenys and Meleys, her dragon, and the king, and Sunfire, his dragon. Absolutely torched him because Vagar is the biggest dragon in the land. Nonetheless, so we get to a council meeting. Aemon is saying, everybody's basically putting their hat in the ring for Aemon. But the queen, however, says, look, I ruled in my husband's stead when he was sick for quite some time, a few years. And this is where the show somewhat gets into differentiating a woman's to a man's point of view, and you start to hear a lot of the woman's point of view, and women don't start wars, and men like to start wars and stuff like that. And I do think it gets a little heavy handed because we do get it a few times in this episode, and I'm not really fond of that. However, in this scene, Allison is being shut out of decisions. She has no power. Her father is no longer hand to the king. Sir Kristen Cole, her secret lover, is hand to the king. But as we will see, Sir Kristen Cole has his own thoughts and ideas about his career or maybe where he's headed. And he understands what his relationship is with the queen dowager, and he understands that that's not going to get him anywhere. So he needs to go where he needs to go, and he needs to think for who he needs to think for, and that is his future king, at least what it seems at this moment, which is Prince Aemon right here. And so we have a council meeting. It is a bit contentious because Allison makes her point that she should actually be the acting queen and in charge, and that's pretty much shot down, and it's shot down by everybody. And there's a moment in this meeting where she's sitting there and the music is swelling, and it's like getting really loud, and it's almost like from her point of view, the static. You ever had those moments in life where you're sitting there and you're listening to a conversation, you're around a group of people, and all of a sudden like you just tune them out, but what you do hear is just like your own head noise, your own head canon. And it's just like, extremely loud, and everybody else fades out because your own thoughts are so overpowering to you that you're just like, I don't give a shit about anything else. Whatever these people are talking about, I don't care. And it's a great scene. It's very powerful, actually. Very powerful and very interesting. And you can see that she's stewing. That's basically what she's doing. She is stewing on what's happening. She's getting shut out of the council. She has no power whatsoever. And for anybody in that position, they probably also realize that I could die tomorrow. I could be done away with. I could be put in the dungeons. I could be taken out back with a buggy whip. I could disappear and no one will ever hear from me again. And then all they have to do is just make stuff up. So that's it's an interesting place to be right now when she used to actually rule over Westeros in her husband's stead, who was a sick king. So to go from that to now having zero power whatsoever, and all of her allies that she thought maybe she was making have turned on her at this point, including her own son, one of her own sons. So she visits Kristen Cole in his own chambers, and she kind of brings up, and try, what happened at Rook's Rest. She's trying to find out, really what exactly went down. And he is really not coming off the goods. He just says the king fought valiantly. I saw men who, whatever, were hurt or whatever. And so she gets no answers from visiting Kristen Cole in his quarters. He just basically gives just a short form of this is what happened, but he fails to include what actually happened and what he, uh, came upon when he awoke and came upon Aemon standing over Aegon and saw him, burned. But he also watched what happened with his own two eyes, but yet he is not coming off that information. So Allison goes to visit him, and they kind of have a short conversation. But he assures her that Aegon died valiantly. We next get to a scene with Rhaenyra, and she is in her council now. So we go from the Green Council to the Black Council, and now they're going over strategy. They're saying, "Hey, look, we lost Rook's Rest, we've lost House Darkland, we've lost these other places, and so at this point now, like we have nobody." Meanwhile, your husband Damon took his dragon, disappeared, went to Harrenhal, which is a castle in disrepair. It is also a haunted castle, so to speak. And so he is gone. So he is out of the picture. No one knows where he is. He's not responding. He's not sending ravens. So uh Rhaenyra is kind of being shut out of her own council because she is the queen. However, they do not want her, participating in any battles because if they lose her, then they lose everything. Now, that's not to say that she doesn't have an heir to the throne. She has named an heir to the throne. Um, you know, Jacaerys is the heir to the throne, her son, but her son is not actually of like pure blood. It is a bastard son, but this is who she's named. And so, but at the same token, she probably feels he's a little too young. He's not quite ready yet. And she's willing to step in. She's willing to go to battle, but no one wants her to do it. And so they're basically just kind of keeping her, um, stuck at Dragonstone. And Sir Alfred says it's merely that the gentler sex heretofore has not been much privy, because Rhaenyra has kind of been there and not been there. She's disappeared and come back. She's been back and forth. And meanwhile, they really haven't seen her act. She also wasn't trained as a soldier as a child. She was a lady. So the kids got trained, the boys, in swords and shields from an early age, from the time they could walk. She, however, not the case. And so when it comes to being in the learned in the lessons of war, she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that at all. And so we get to the castle meeting, and then she ends up kind of finding out exactly what happened. She's also trying to mourn the fact that Rhaenys lost her life, and Meleys was their largest dragon, lost its life. And so the council is basically saying that even if the king passed away, they're going to prop up another person in his stead because the green side still needs a acting king, right? And so it doesn't really matter who it is, but the Green Castle is making the mistake. Okay, the Greens at King's Landing are making the mistakes that they feel the small folk will pretty much support anybody, but Rhaenyra comes to learn that that's not necessarily the case. She has a conversation with her son, and he wants to go fly off and get um, allies. He has a conversation with his wife, who tells him that he is the successor and he shouldn't feel bad about being stuck in the castle, also because he is the next head of, the next heir to the Iron Throne, right? So, so at this point, Jacaerys decides to head out and try to go make some alliances. And he does it behind his mother's back. So he flies off on his dragon to make alliances. In the meantime, Damon is trying to make alliances from Harrenhal. And he meets with the Bracken house, and they say they'd rather burn than bend the knee. So he needs to figure out how he can get them to bend the knee without forcing them to lose their lives. He understands, like, he still has an understanding that these people would rather burn than bend the knee. But at the same time, all you need to do is find what it is that they want. What do they enjoy? What do they want? And if he can somewhat give that to them, or he can find their weakness, then he might be able to turn them over to his side. So he brings his dragon. You see all the men here that are trying to basically say no, we won't join you, and they hold steadfast in that, and nothing happens. So he ends up having a conversation with Willem, uh, and he instructs Willem to figure out a way to get the Brackens on their side, even if it's something that is not, I guess, legally allowed in warfare or in within houses. It's more of, hey, let's get down and dirty and let's try to figure out what can we do, what weakness can we exploit So we'll get these people on our side. And so, great acting by Matt Smith. It really is. And then, Willem says that, the Brackens rather are very good fighters. They're very good. They are unyielding in battle, and so this is a great opportunity for them. He admires their battle prowess. Now, normally you wouldn't hear someone say that from an opposing side, but he understands where they're at. They need men. They need an army. They have this giant castle that's a piece of shit. No one repairing it. Nothing happening. There's no money, but they need men, and they need men to fight for their side. So Damon sends him off to do just that. Uh, and then in the meantime, we get a scene. Let's see here with Allison. Um, Here we go. All right, there we go. Well, if I can get it. Actually, no, we are at the Airy. This is where one of Rhaenyra's daughters has been sent with dragons that are still unborn. And she's trying to convince this house that what they've done is they brought protection. They understand that these dragons aren't born yet, and they're not going to be born anytime soon. So there needs to be some sort of protection, some sort of guarantee. And so her daughter, Bela, is there uh, to uh, to kind of try to smooth things out. And it's not really going over that well. She doesn't want to be there. They don't want her there. But the protection they're seeking is from dragons. They're unreachable by men. They're seeking protection from dragons, and the dragons will come from up above. That's the only way you can reach this place. And so really, it's not about being the castle being invaded by men. It's more about dragons. And right now, they really don't have any protection except for a small dragon and one of Rhaenyra's daughters to ride it. So, we get through this scene, and as we move along, we get Rhaenyra, and she is asking for guidance from her whisperer, so to speak. And it is told to her that there are ways to get the small folk on your side. And one of those ways is to actually send someone to go talk to them and try to spread the word, because we will soon see that Aemon takes over for Aegon at the Red Keep, and Aemon decides that he's going to lock all the small folk in. And that means no one can escape. The small folk can't escape if they wanted to, and they're stuck there. And the guards protect the gate. So that means that now the small folk are going to really not be on their side. And if Rhaenyra can figure out a way to get to King's Landing, or somehow show the small folk in King's Landing that she is their best choice, they may be able to coerce a revolution, so to speak, and have 100,000 or how many ever people that live there to revolt against the crown. And that works in their favor. And as we've seen a lot of times through history and revolutions and stuff like that, is that you see people, the citizens, end up just taking over, right? The government or the sitting king, especially in that situation, cannot really do anything because they're outnumbered. They're outnumbered, 50 to 1, right? 100 to 1. But they rule through power and certain checkpoints, check marks. But if the people really wanted to revolt and take over, they could. And we will see that in the episode. We do get a meeting where Damon is actually talking about trying to get everyone on his side, but he again is having visions. He's hearing things, seeing things. He's in his visions. He's being told that his brother Viserys, who was a great king, was actually not fit for the crown. Damon was fit for the crown. So as he's getting into his visions more and more, he's starting to kind of sway himself. He's trying to he's telling himself that, he is deserving. And what that means is that, yes, he is there as a king consort to Rhaenyra, but he has plans of his own. And his plans are basically to take King's Landing, take the Iron Throne, and have Rhaenyra at his side, not the other way around. But the way that it should be, per the instructions of the former king, is that Damon would be at her side, but he has other ideas. And and you can see this manifesting throughout the last couple episodes. He is also told that there is no money at the castle, that the all the money had been transferred from Lord Laris Strong. And so there's really no money for repairs. There's no money to catch rats. There's no money to clean bat dung. There's no money to hire people. And so, you know, uh, Damon is wanting all this work done, but there's no one to do it for free. It requires money. And then this is the scene right here where we see Allison just get basically locked out of the meeting, um, of the council of the Greens. And so she gets locked out of the meeting, so to speak. When I say locked out, what I mean is that she's not locked out of the room. She's just shut out of having power. She recommends herself for power. They deny her. It is basically a unanimous vote by everyone there that she is powerless and that Aemon should take over. He is the rightful heir. He is the next son in line. He's actually the oldest son, should have been put in charge as an heir if things were to follow the correct way. But because of the Viserys on his deathbed whispering, muttering the name Aegon, Alicent took that as that her youngest son should take over the throne. But in actuality, it's Aemon who should take over the throne because he is the oldest son, and he does so. It is recommended. Sir Kristen Cole makes the recommendation. He does not come, he's not forthright in what actually happened in battle and what he witnessed, and he understood that Aemon tried to kill his brother, tried to kill his dragon. Aemon was successful in killing Rhaenys and Meleys. So House Black lost their largest dragon, and Rhaenyra's aunt. But ultimately, the Green Council votes to have Aemon in control. And there's a couple things he makes known right away. He says, I want all the rat catchers cut down, and I want all of the small folk locked in. And then we get this great scene with Alicent, and I'll play just a very few seconds of it, um, so you guys can see this, and I think it's just wonderful.
I shall send Lord Jason encouragement. What else?
We might turn our attention to the small folk here in King's Landing.
Slow burn, this slow close up of her. It takes many seconds, but as the screen closes in on her, it shows her just watching everybody talk. They're telling everything what's going to happen, and the music and the sound effect gets really loud, and it's just crunchy, just and she's watching all this go down, and she's seeing that she has no power whatsoever. So again, she very well could end up on the wrong end of a rope, just like many other people in these shows or in this position. She could end up at the wrong end of a rope, and really through nothing she's done, it's just the position she's in now. And she is the mother. She's the mother of the two boys, one that is burned badly, the other one is taking over the office of king. She's the mother, and yet the boys almost don't have any respect for her as their mother. And so she's realizing this, and it's a great scene, a great scene. It's a good like 45 seconds of a slow close up. It really is. It's very good, and you can see it on her face. She's realizing what's happening. So we cut to another scene where we have the ballista worker who came in a few episodes ago to ask for more money, and he was told He was going to get more money to produce ballistas to protect against dragons in the air. But his wife is telling him, hey, we've gotten no money at all. Our child is sick. And so the husband, he is saying, well, the king promised and it's going to come. And she says, well, we need to leave. We need to get out of town. And he's like, well, I don't want to be a beggar. And she says, well, it's better to be a beggar than waiting on coin to feed ghosts. Which means obviously that, by the time you get your money, our daughter is going to be dead and many of the people in the city are going to be dead. And so why wait for coin that's going to feed ghosts when we need to get out of here and you can go find a job, live in another little town or city somewhere. She has relatives and she begs him to leave. So they make a decision here shortly that will come to pass as we see things start to ramp up. So we see Allison. She goes to visit Sir Kristen Cole, and she says, she asks him what really happened. Again, he does not say what actually really happened. And then she basically breaks it off and says, look, we can't do this anymore. You and I can't get together. We can't have sex. We can't do this secret thing. People know about it. But in the meantime, in that conversation, she's asking Sir Kristen Cole, what happened, and he kind of says, "Look, I saw men being burned, turned to ash. He's scarred from this. Now he's a character you either love or you hate him. Most people hate him." And from some of his actions, I fully understand why. However, at this moment, we do get a true look into someone who was forged for war, ready to go, ready for action. And then the things he's seen has changed him. And he is changed at this point. But he also understands his position is compromised because if he supports someone else, he's going to end up on the wrong end of a rope. Right? So you can see how the politics play into the show because at one point you're on top of the world, and literally a day later, you could be on the opposite end of that, and your life is expendable because of that. And it's all by a name, last name of a person, or a title of a person, and next in line, so to speak. So this conversation gives us an insight to the fact that their relationship is coming to an end, so to speak, at least as far as the show is portraying that. Now, I haven't read the books. I don't know for sure. We'll see. But their relationship somewhat is uh, it's disintegrating right here. And Allison basically is saying, so you cast me aside at the meeting when I tried to take control and tried to become the ruler. And Allison's probably trying to figure out how to way a way for peace, but that's not going to happen realistically. But she probably at this point is like, man, I really want to stop all this shit and just have peace. Can we just get to peace? I inherited a Westeros that was at peace with each other while my husband was suffering from his condition when she did actually rule. But you can see nobody wants peace. They all want war. Her sons, her lover, her counsel, and now she's powerless. So Kristen Cole has kind of resigned to the fate that what we have to do now is it's we're going to war, we're at war, it's only going to get worse. There's no hope for the opposite, and he understands that, and that's why he backed Aemon. We get another scene here coming up where we see all the small folk running for the gates. They're running for the gates. They realize that hmm, dragon being drugged through the streets is a bad omen, but they know the crown has no money, no one's been paid, there's no food, no, people are starving, neighbors are robbing each other. And at this point, we get to where everybody is rushing the gates, and we see that the gates are being shut on them. And this is a bad look for House Green, right? This is a bad look for the crown because they're basically telling people you're stuck here no matter what. Yes, we know there are problems, but we're not even alleviating those problems and we're locking you in. So your fate is sealed. And so for the small folk, that is obviously a horrible way to go. And you can see here they're crowding the gates, trying to get out. They're pushed back. Things do not actually get ugly. They don't get out of control, but you can see what's happening. Um, and so we cut to another scene where Jace is trying to figure out how to make alliances, and you see his dragging, his guarding. He's on a bridge, and so he is meeting with a house and trying to get passage through the Riverlands, and they are contesting him, and they're trying to figure out, well, what is Damon doing, right? Like, what is your uncle or your father, so to speak? What is he doing right now? He's at Heron Hall, but nothing's happening. He hasn't been able to raise an army yet, and they need protection. And they actually want the castle of Heron Hall. So Jace makes a deal with them, and they say, well, how do we know Damon's going to cooperate? And so basically he is now on a mission at this point to figure out how to get Damon to cooperate. But Jace is actually bringing soldiers. He's bringing an army to the table, something that Damon has really been unable to do at this point, at least a strong army. So Jace makes some promises. We'll see if his ass can keep them. He's writing checks. His ass might not be able to cash, but we will find out. Um, and so this meeting actually goes rather well for Jace, and he's making progress. And so we get a nice shot that pans back out above, what the tables and where they're set up, and from that point on, then we cut back to Damon here, and he is again having visions, so to speak. And we have Alice Rivers who comes to talk to him, and she's trying to convince him, that Daemon Targaryen failed to dirty his hands in this war. He's done nothing. He's sitting idly by, and he's pretending to get a castle and pretending to get people on his side. But she calls him out. Alice Rivers calls him out and says, "Look, you want to usurp your wife, Rhaenyra. You want to be the king, and so she's basically holding the mirror up to his face and saying it to him. And so he's trying to convince her that he's been telling people, do as I require. Uh, and she is saying that, yeah, but then you're gonna burn people, you're gonna destroy people. Is that the kind of army that you want to raise? And so she's trying to hold the mirror up and say, look, you're going about this the wrong way. There are other ways to fight a war. And then she really burns him right here, where she says, I'm sure your tactics are, after all, approved by the queen. And that cuts him deep, because he knows he's not going by her, by Rhaenyra's orders. He's doing whatever the hell he wants. And so, Alice, basically says that, you really need to take a second look at what you're doing. Damon says that, I will be the ruler, and Rhaenyra will be at my side, and that's just how this is going to go down. So he's steadfast in the way he believes. So now we have someone that is really trying to take his own destiny, and it's going to fail miserably. Actually, fail miserably. And if you've read the books, you understand that. If not, it's okay. Um, we move forward to a scene with the Prince of Tides, Lord Corlys. Um, he is having a conversation with his daughter, and his daughter is trying to soothe his pain about the fact that his wife died, and she kind of fires Corlys up and says, "Look, you're the hand of the king. Rhaenyra wants you to be her hand. You have not accepted yet, but we need someone strong to get into this war. And Lord Corliss kind of stares and he looks at the hand and he grips it. And so we understand that he is going to be taking over as the hand of the king. And that's going to make a difference moving forward in the next few episodes. Um, and so our next scene, if I can get to it here, Sir Alfred is trying to talk to Rhaenyra about, her place in this war. They are trying to protect her as much as they possibly can, and she's growing frustrated because she has a dragon and she's really wanting to get into battle. She's wanting to jump in and really make a difference. And so she starts to question her counsel.
Sir Alfred, I will not deny you have tried my patience of late, or that I would prefer a council more inclined to champion their queen.
She is, not going to replace anybody. They've been by her side. They proved their loyalty. So while they're concerned because they're trying to make suggestions, they're trying to get this thing going. They've taken 3 losses now, really a big loss, but they've taken losses in getting an army together, and they're really behind the 8 ball at this point. So she's trying to kind of, soothe everybody's mind and just say, look, yes, I appreciate you wanting me to not go into battle. You want me to stay behind. She's trying to reason that, but also figure out a solution. And her counsel starts to think that maybe she does not want them, but she reassures, everybody that, hey, look, I need you. I need everybody here. And yet they're still concerned about Damon going to try to take this castle. They haven't heard anything back from him. And so really time is running short. And then Damon ends up having another dream and then is awoken by the Lord of Harrenhal. And he's told that the Brackens wish an audience and they show up. And evidently Sir Willem has gone and done some pretty heinous things. He shows up and Damon shows up and says, "Why have you woken me out of my bed?" He's really pissed off, and all these folk have concerns. Actually, they're basically saying that, look, punishing our house for treason is one thing, but we've actually seen some other things go down.
But these other acts, the Brackens were given their chance. They would not see reason.
The Blackwoods have exploited the war for the crown to visit atrocities upon
I
their
have
old
seen my fair
rivals.
share of their quarrels, and I tell you there is no honor in a fight such as
Honor?
this.
What of common decency?
These
They have pillaged and raped and like burned and done all kinds of stuff to the House Bracken. And that was at Damon's insistence. There's other ways to gain allies, but he kind of goes about it in a really bad way by allowing Willem to just do as he wishes. And so Sarah 003 says, "Hi, love from India." Well, thanks for jumping in, Sarah. My bad. Sarah 003, I appreciate you stopping in. I was kind of getting on the back end of this episode, just giving a little bit of a rundown. The better rundown will be Tuesday night at 10 Eastern, 9 Central with Matthew Matson on the Big Show podcast. But we're kind of nearing the end of this one, but I appreciate you stopping by for sure. But Damon basically is getting told by the Brackens, look, you've used some underhanded methods to try to get us on your side. This isn't going to work. This is not going to work.
More from a man who ordered the slaughter of a child in his mother's arms.
That is a lie, and I will have the man who told it brought before me.
Oh, your man is half the kingdom, my prince.
So basically, these folks show up and they're like, look, this is not the way to go about trying to get allies. And I understand it. We understand, we get it. This is war. But Damon goes about it the wrong way. So he had an opportunity. He had a dragon when he met with the Brackens. He threatened to burn them all, but then he gives Sir Willem the go ahead to do whatever methods he needs necessary to try to bend these folk to his side. Well, it's the wrong method, you know, livestock, burning homes, pillaging, whatever it is that they do. Obviously, that's not going to gain you supporters, and these folks show up to let Damon know about it, and he actually does not respond. He doesn't respond the way that you would think maybe someone in his position would do. But now these people know, you're not following the rules of law and by the gods. So in essence, this is going to come back to haunt you. And yes, it will come back to haunt Damon. Meanwhile, Jacaerys is out there, making good on promises, raising allies, doing what Damon can't do. And he's so many years younger than Damon.
By the eyes of old gods and new. Dragon or no, we shall not raise our banners for a tyrant.
So he has lost the support that he so desperately needs. He has lost that support. We get a great shot here, actually, of Damon leaning up against the fireplace. And I love it. Juxtaposition with Rhaenyra in this next scene, leaning up against the fireplace. It's wonderful. Again, this show is wonderful cinematography. It does a great job of, with dialogue, with framing scenes, the CGI even. I don't even want to know what the budget for this show is because it's probably not anywhere near as high as the Acolyte budget at $180 million for a season of that garbage. But what they do with what they have to work with here on this show is just fantastic. And then we see Rhaenyra, posting up on the fireplace as well. And so I just love that. I love the two people who are very closely together, and yet at the same time they're very far apart on everything they want to do and everything they feel is the correct way to operate and move forward. And instead of being by her side, Damon is off thinking, boy, I have to take this castle. This castle's a piece of crap, but I need to take it because he feels like that's his destiny. And so we get a scene with Rhaenyra sending her mole. Let's see if I can pull it up here real quick. Definitely don't want HBO slapping me with that copyright. That's for sure. And so Rhaenyra is sending her mole to King's Landing. And this is where they're going to try to get the small folk on their side. So the plan is if Rhaenyra can get the small folk who have been locked in the castle, they're not getting fed, they're not getting paid. If she can get them on her side, we could have a revolt of sorts, and she could take King's Landing. And we will see that will come into play in the next couple episodes, since we've only got 3 left. Her mole makes it over to King's Landing, and they actually escort her inside, but not in a way where she's escorted to see anyone in particular, or where she could be caught. But she makes her way in to King's Landing. Meanwhile, Lord Corlys takes the hand pin and decides he's going to be the hand to the queen, even though his wife just passed away. And then we get Damon, or rather Aemon, I'm sorry, staring at the Iron Throne. And you kind of wonder at this point, does Aemon even really want this? Does he want the Iron Throne? Does he even care about the Iron Throne? Or really for him, it's not even about power. He's just such a great character. He's a great strategist. He's also really great with as far as knowing about the war, what to do. But I don't think he really wants power. I don't think he wants anything to do with it. He took it but I don't really think he cares for the Iron Throne. Now that may come to pass, and maybe I'll be proven wrong about that. But we see a scene with Aegon's wife. She shows up and she asks Aemon, was it worth the price? So she knows. She is also clairvoyant. She's a seer. She's able to see into the future, so to speak, or see things before they happen. And so she knows what happened. I think most people probably know what happened, and especially that was there at the battle. If they watch it with their own eyes, they know that Aemon actually hurt his brother. We get a shot of Aegon laying in the bed. He is severely burned. You can see here on half his face, and he's having trouble breathing, but he is not coherent at this point. Alicent comes to visit him. She sits for a moment, and as she walks away, he actually says, let's see if I can find it. He's saying mother, but she can't hear him as she walks away. So he's actually saying mother. So he is coherent. He is awake. And if she was there to hear him, he probably would have said what happened to him. So, real quick, Wraith Mace dropped by real fast just to say, hey, popping in, say hello, and going to go watch the latest episode. Just got home a bit ago after 5 hours of driving, family barbecue. Wraith, pop out of this. Don't get spoiled. Go watch the episode. Enjoy your time. Glad you had a great day today. Great Sunday. Yes, we are the Hammer, my friend. And then show up on Tuesday night at 10 Eastern for Matthew and I's big show stream. We're going to thoroughly deep dive into this episode and do a much better job than I have covering things right now. But I just kind of want to just give a quick overview. At this point, really, what becomes a mistake, or we will see maybe is a mistake, is that Jace comes back, Sterys comes back to Rhaenyra. And at this point, he is saying we need to have other riders of dragons. We need more riders. We need more dragon riders. She talks about how she feels like she's stuck there and that he has gone out and done some great things, but she feels like she is worthless. And so they kind of have it out a little bit. It's a good conversation. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they know that Aemon is in charge at King's Landing. Something has to be done. And Jace feels like the best thing to do is take people of half blood or not full Targaryen blood and train them to be dragon riders. And this sounds like a crazy idea. And that's because it is a crazy idea. It is probably not a great idea to have people on top of dragons who are not of full Targaryen blood. You see this right here. It says those who married into other noble houses, their children born with other names.
Other names. A generation ago or more, blood would be thin.
Yes, their blood would be thin. And so I think this is going to end up posing a problem if they recruit more dragon riders.
And yet, the dragon will only accept a dragon lord to ride it. Also say the histories. Valyrian history.
So this is a key thing that happens right here. A key thing that happens. And the plan is for there to be more dragon riders for House Black. And therefore they feel as if they can take over the war effort with that. But they need to have all the records so they can look up and figure out who has the blood. And so ultimately at the end of the day, that's kind of where we finish up. This is the grand plan of Jace and Rhaenyra. And so that will lead us into the next episode, and we will start to see maybe some extra characters, extra dragon riders who come along and start to try to tame or take control of a dragon. I can't wait to see how this plays out. I can't wait to see the comedy, so to speak, of how this plays out, because I think it's going to be great. But also, there's still some big things to happen with Damon at Harrenhal. We have Alicent being locked out, basically, of the High Council. And we also have Aegon, the king, who is burned but is able to actually speak. His mother just could not hear him in time. And so we'll see if that comes back to bite them in the end. All right. So, nonetheless, just a quick run through of the show. I appreciate anybody that's just hanging out and just listening to me talk. It is getting late. And I have some more work to do on some wonderful Star Wars content. But nonetheless, House of the Dragon, episode 5. If you hadn't seen it, go watch it. If you haven't seen the season or the series, rather, go back, watch season 1, get caught up. 10 episodes. Then go and watch this season and get caught up. It's a wonderful show. It's better than most things that are out there on television right now. Great dialogue, great acting, great cinematography, great sets. Just everything about the show is absolutely fantastic. And it's everything I wish that all entertainment could be, which is actually entertaining. So, I'm Pop Blender. I'm going to sign off here. Like I said, Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central. Matthew Matson and I will be doing a stream, and this is what we're going to be talking about. It's called The Big Show, so tune in on this channel. You can find me on Instagram, PopBlender75. But I appreciate anybody hanging out and listening to me ramble on for a little bit after this episode. And I will talk to everyone very soon, especially on Tuesday. So thank you very much for hanging out. I really appreciate all of you. And I'm sure I will see all of you soon in the next few days. Thanks a bunch.